to all of our listeners. Welcome to another episode of On the Edge of Tech. I'm Dean Irwin, and today I'm joined by Mark Reynolds, the Commercial Business Executive for VMWare Sub-Saharan Africa. Did I get that right, Mark?
That's right, yes. Good afternoon, glad to be here.
Good. Well, yeah, thanks very much for joining me. Obviously, incredibly unusual times at the moment. So, I think everybody's just trying to navigate through these through this uncharted territory as best that we possibly can. And I think a lot of people are interested to hear how thought leaders and business leaders such as yourself are coping and managing through these uncertain times. And I think, sort of maybe really just to open up and to start the discussion, how have you found COVID-19 and the lockdown experience, the impact of COVID-19 on VMware South Africa, or VMware Sub-Saharan Africa, should I say, since that's your territory?
Yes. Yeah. So, it's been quite interesting, and it's varied a little bit, to be honest with you. So, the start of this year, and our first quarter runs till the end of April. We had the best business we've ever done, the best quarter in our history, and we've been in Sub-Saharan Africa since 2007, 2008, and obviously that's varied from country to country. We look all the way from Nigeria down to Cape Town, and I sort of tried to analyze this, and I looked at what are customers going through, and a lot you talk to and a lot you see is experience of what's happening in the business. I think first, a lot of customers had projects that were ongoing and made sure they finished those fairly quickly. Then they sort of went into a second phase where they said, right, my environment's changed, the way I do business has changed, the way my customers react to me has changed, and they sort of did what they needed to do to get business up and running. Some businesses were in a very fortunate position that they had those technologies in place. Some had to go out and literally buy lots of laptops and have complementary technologies to supplement that. I find now customers are in sort of a third phase, which is saying, right, we're starting to open up a bit. What is the future going to look like? We've certainly seen an acceleration and a huge acceleration in digital transformation. But what does that mean for me as a business? And as much as what it means for me as a business, what does it mean for my employees? What does it mean to my customers? So it's all very well I can set myself up for what I think my business is going to need to be. What is my customers going to be asking? So I think we're in a bit of a discovery phase at the moment. I see the market is a bit quiet at the moment while we're going through this. And I mean, for me, being in the IT industry, I think the next 6 months are just going to be so exciting for us, but challenging at the same time.
Absolutely. And part of this discovery process, have you identified any technologies that have surfaced, sort of during this lockdown period from a VMware point of view?
Definitely. And when we say we've seen them surface, we see obviously the business coming through. So it's a reality. It's not just the way we're thinking about it. The first one, and I think it's pretty obvious to everybody, is VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure, has exploded everywhere that it's needed. We also talked to a lot of hardware vendors. I know some of them couldn't provide stock after the end of April, literally not being able to get hold of the technology. The other area is subscription to cloud services, and there I talk about a multiple of them. There's local players, there's specific applications with certain vendors. There's the hyperscalers, which have been very active coming into the market, and certainly getting a lot more active now. The virtual desktop infrastructure is one. The second one I find a lot of people are looking at is SD-WAN. So now with the situation that I've obviously, a lot more of my business needs to be digital. There's associated costs come with that. And how do I drive down those costs that are in my business? And looking forward to taking advantage of those going forward. So a lot of activity there. And then the third area is and this is more experimental at this stage, I think, is which workloads can I move to off-premise type of environments, and how do I take advantage of that going forward? And that's where a lot of that discovery comes in. So A are my applications appropriate for a cloud environment? B, is the cost affordable for my business? And what is the income going to be for my business in future that I'm going to be able to continue to commit to this recurring subscription cost? And there I see customers sort of looking at a phased approach. So what I'm seeing, what I quite like hearing from CIOs I've spoken to of late, is they're looking at more of a phased approach, which is saying what I'm building new, I'm going to build for the digital environment. My current environment, I'm going to modernize that as much as I can, and have a situation where you can't really put a time frame to this, where my current environment is going to move, be supported by a cloud native environment going forward. So they have a dual approach, and at the same time, customers have different requirements. So what I might have thought of my app and my communication requirement with my customers 6 months ago may not be the same in 6 months' time.
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing a bit of a fundamental shift, and I think a shift that has been happening for quite some time, and maybe this has almost just been a situation that has helped prompt it a little bit. There's certainly pockets of opportunity that are presenting themselves, and you've discussed some of those, such as VDI and the cloud adoption and so forth. In terms of business risk, is there anything that you're doing at the moment to help mitigate further risk as we continue to navigate through COVID-19?
So now I'm talking from a VMware perspective. We're fortunate in the fact that our product is essentially intellectual property. This is product that we've designed, we've brought to market, and in a lot of cases, and many IT companies are doing this, software vendors, is now you're selling to recover the cost of that IP, and obviously keep yourself as a going concern. At the same time, whilst we're investing in that, you obviously want to look to the future and make sure you can invest in the right technologies. We think we have a good roadmap for that going forward. The challenges we have, though, are there's a very real situation that your customers, a lot of them, may well run out of money. They can't buy your products. Simple as that. The other area that's a concern is we sell through a channel, so distribution and resellers, like many businesses do. We're basically wholesale, and then there's distribution and resale or retail in their businesses. In terms of their cash flow in their businesses, because of the challenges of being locked down for a period, they either don't have the cash, or they've run out of credit with their distributors or providers. So, we work with customers to extend credit where it's appropriate, but you have to be very careful on the risk. It's all very well you extend credit, but if that's going to turn into bad debt, that's not good for any business, to be honest. We also work with some of our partner companies on financing. You would have heard in the news, a lot of vendors are saying take a payment holiday, spread your payments over a period. Typically, when customers invest in our technology, they invest for a 3-year period or a subscription for as long as they need it. And we work with finance houses to make sure that those financing costs can be as close to zero as possible. But that obviously depends on the customer's profile. So it is actually an interesting conundrum. So as well as you're doing in terms of the technology that you're bringing to market, and it's appropriate and needed in this environment, there's still the reality of somebody has to buy it at the end of the day. And for us to be selling the product, all of our product ourselves, would be a very expensive exercise, make us less profitable. But if our reseller channel and our distribution are running out of credit capital, then we have to make decisions. Either we answer those questions ourselves, we bet on those longer term relationships with those partners and extend that over a period. There really is, to be frank, no option to it. If you want to carry on doing business, you've got to find new ways of doing it.
Absolutely. In closing, Mark, you're very much seen as a thought leader in the industry, and obviously one of the reasons why we wanted to talk to you today. What advice can you give young entrepreneurs to maybe sort of be cognizant of certain areas, and I think you've really spoken about one now is sort of understand the credit terms that are available to you, and make sure that you use them to the best of your ability and so forth, and I think that's a great example. Are there any others that maybe come to mind that you can provide to young entrepreneurs, some advice?
Yeah, so talking specifically about my industry, I think the important thing is to understand what your customer requirements are. That would be a basic of any entrepreneur, and put their business plans together. What I do think is quite important, though, is identify, because you're going to typically align yourself with one or other vendor. You're going to write applications, you're going to deliver services for that vendor in that industry. Make sure you align yourself with a credible, certainly financially viable, and a forward-looking type of vendor. If you go back in history through the Industrial Revolution, you ask how many companies are 100 years old, how many stay around during times like this, and the numbers are scary. I mean, whether it's 70 or 80% of the Fortune 100 companies won't exist in 50 years, whatever that number is, there's a lot of them. And have a look and say, where is the industry going? What are customers going to require? And I think, look, in my mind, off-premise sort of services, however they're delivered and whoever delivers them, are definitely going to be a big requirement for practically, other than labor intensive, practically any other industry that we have. Make sure you align yourself with those right vendors. I came into the IT industry after having been a police officer for 12 years. I knew absolutely nothing about it. I had to get somebody help me unlock Microsoft Word because I hadn't had the training to do it, and that's a long story. But I didn't know. I came in without a lot.
I believe you were working at Microsoft, right?
Yeah. So I was in the police, and I spent 12 years at Microsoft, and now I've been for 8 years at VMware. But my biggest learning was, find something within that industry, and for me it was product licensing, to be honest, that you have an affinity to, that you can understand. I read each and every license that Microsoft have, and they have it. And I made sure, I felt I was one of the industry leaders in terms of that understanding. But it's not only that; it's just how to apply it. At the end of the day, there were opportunities for me to take that and monetize it for Microsoft the way that we did it. And customers look for that. They look for somebody who's a specific expert and has credibility around a specific field that you can focus on. I don't think an entrepreneur can address necessarily, unless you're going to become, Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. But find those specific things that are going to be able to take you through into the future. And I mean, there's a couple of technologies at the moment. I mentioned one earlier, this SD-WAN. And SD-WAN, if you're not involved in technology, is essentially Waze, like you get on your phone. When you could drive a car, what was the quickest way to get somewhere? Well, what is the cheapest and most efficient way for me to supply my applications and my business with bandwidth? And I mean, we've had customers that have had 80 to 90% savings on these sort of things. Now you look at the current environment and you say, customers are going to want to continue their business. They're going to want to do well. They're going to retain their employees, but it's a challenging market. So they're going to have to take costs out of their business. What can technology do to help them take costs out of the business? That's what I would look at and make sure, you need credibility. align yourself with the right brand, and when you make a promise and a commitment to a customer, you need to live up to it. This is not going to be a short-term challenge that the world faces. You're going to see changes like this impacting us for a long time, and I think the way we do business or did business 6 months ago is going to be unrecognizable in a year or so.
Yeah, that's some really sound advice. Thanks for that, Mark. I think maybe just one more question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of maybe a cultural shift or a cultural change, do you foresee any sort of cultural change at VMware? We've obviously gone through a very, very large experiment in terms of working from home, and I think work from home devices and so forth is really a hot topic at the moment, and I think it's pretty much on everybody's exco agenda at the moment. Work from home, perhaps look at winding down premises and looking at taking it something like WeWork, for instance. Do you foresee any sort of cultural change at VMware? I'm obviously not holding you to anything, it's just really your view.
No, I absolutely do, and I think our business perhaps a little bit different from a lot of others. We have 30,000 employees worldwide. Before COVID, we had probably 20% of our working population worked from home anyway. We, from a global perspective, and this is coming out of America, obviously, because we're headquartered there, we're expecting that to go anywhere to 60 to 70% of people working from home. But that does not mean we don't have the need to collaborate.
Sure.
So on a worldwide level, I don't know how many offices we have. We have hundreds of offices. I don't foresee us having the same office in South Africa with rows of desks and people in there all the time. But there is a requirement for collaboration. I think the nature of our culture is going to change to one where we won't meet as regularly. But when we do meet, the emphasis is certainly going to be on collaboration and making it happen probably quicker than we used to. So taking away a lot of the frustrations, hopefully, in the business and processes, and getting straight through to that collaboration. The thing I'm quite interested to see going forward is how we're going to work with our customers. So during this time, we've done quite a lot of online meetings, online seminars, and obviously we've seen a significant uptake in the number that attend. What I found quite interesting from a Sub-Saharan Africa perspective, you'd have an event in the past, and audiences tend to be quite reserved in this region. So they wouldn't ask a whole lot of questions to the presenter, but they would go and meet with them afterwards, meet with some of the staff, and interact like that. But now with like we're doing here, or some of them don't prefer not to put a video on, they make use of all the chat facilities, and they're asking questions as things are going on. So there's already, it's not I'm going to wait to ask a question of somebody. I feel comfortable in this environment. I'm going to ask this question, and I can do it anonymously, so the rest of the audience doesn't feel, I don't know what I'm talking about, or make me feel uncomfortable about it. But just to come back to our culture as VMware, internally, yes, there'll certainly be less office time. We've got to find a way to make collaboration work, and we've got to find a way to work that our customers and partners will be comfortable with. The ability to meet with them every time it's necessary or appropriate isn't necessarily going to be there. How do I make myself and them comfortable with this sort of technology that you and I are using now? And that's me. Then we've got all the millennials coming through into the environment as well. Sorry, I'm carrying on a bit, but there's a lot to this. The one challenge I'm finding at the moment is I've got vacant headcount that I'm busy hiring for. One in Nigeria, one's going to be in South Africa. The chap I'm looking at hiring in Nigeria, he lives in California. So I'm not able to have that personal sort of feel for somebody when I'm hiring. That's something I think that that people relationship over technology, and for me, I'm articulating it through hiring. That's something we're going to have to get used to. To go back to your question, it will cause culture changes. I don't think we've predicted exactly what that's going to look like yet.
I think we've all got a lot to learn as we experience this new normal and these uncharted territories. But yeah, some great input and advice, Mark. I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. It's it's greatly appreciated. So thank you very much.
Really enjoyed the discussion. Thank you very much.
I know we've been trying to do this for a while, so
yeah.
And it's taken a complete shutdown for us to actually finally get one of these things together. But I suppose again, an opportunity created in a downturn.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when we can have a meal together.
Absolutely.
I've learned to cook a bit, but I'm no good. And
no, well, we'll definitely follow up from here onwards. But yeah, thanks again, Mark.
Thanks so much. Thanks.